All right, we're going to get started. Good evening, everybody. My name is January Prather, and this meeting is to aid active military as well as veterans on getting the information they need as it relates to claims, jobs, resumes, credit, home buying, and et cetera. So you're going to get some really good information during this webinar. Also, there'll be an opportunity for you to ask questions, as well as we will provide some contact information with some of our speakers so that if you have any additional questions, you can reach out to them. So we're going to get started. This is an overview of what we'll be covering. We'll be covering resume writing and documentation, federal and contractor jobs, getting a disability rating that you deserve, home buying 101, and understanding and improving your credit. So our first speaker is Mr. Varnell Tall. He is an Army veteran. He's retired, and he's going to be talking to you all about resume writing and documentation. So can you hear me?
Yes, I can. And you're agreeing on my end.
Okay, great. All right, it's all yours.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, fellow veterans and active duty and National Guard service members. My name is Varnell Tall. I'm one of the admins of the Facebook group, No Service Member Left Behind. Okay. I am a retired Sergeant First Class United States Army, did 25 years. And I am currently employed by the Department of Defense as a civilian employee. So, one of the things that I noticed when I was in my last year of active duty was that a lot of us tend to wait until, we go through that transitional program, SFL TAP, to start learning how to write resumes. That is the worst thing to do. If you are a service member and you know that it's time to roll out, you need to backwards plan and practice writing resumes. Even though you're not going to apply for a job, I recommend you to find something you like and practice writing your resumes. There is no such thing as the perfect do-all resumes because each job description out there is different. You must tailor your resume for each job that you're applying for. And what I mean by that is, if I am applying for a job that requires me to be able to weld a pretzel-shaped weld, I need to show that I have done that multiple times over several years at different places. I'm hoping you're understanding what I'm saying. Because all of the transitional courses that I went to, they like to say tailor your resume, but then some people think that I'm just gonna, update and edit for this particular job. You have to go through each and every work experience and work history and make sure that you have repetitive execution and task of what's required in the new job in each and every one of your duty positions. A prime example, when I was retiring is you need to show 12 years, 10 years of consistently doing the same thing, especially when it's, it says so in a duty description. If you are trying to illustrate your previous experiences, you have to fully show what you've done. For example, a lot of people in the Army, especially if you're a staff sergeant or above, right? You've done what we call being a range NCOIC, right? And a lot of people understand that when you're the range NC and you have to do all the planning, coordinations, ordering ammunition, teaching your people how you want them to be a lane safety on your range because you're in charge, right? What you're doing is project management. All right, we have this thing in the Army we call an MDMP, the military decision-making process, and I'm sure the other branches have it too. If you analyze what the MDMP actually is, it is a project management tool and is also an excellent tool for business management. Okay, so when we do these things, we don't understand because we look at our jobs in the military as, you know, we're doing this day to day, but we don't document what we're doing. We don't keep a journal of what I'm doing. Um, you need to do that because when it's time for you to, you know, get out, unless you leave the military as a millionaire, you know, you need to make sure you take notes so that when it's time for you to write a resume, you can transition that stuff into your resume with greater detail. Some of us may not know what we've done over the years as far as our jobs are concerned because we get tunnel vision on the MOS portion, but we don't look at the bit larger picture of what it is we have to do as far as other additional duties and a lot of the background bit things that are required to make the mission happen, right? We tend to get focused on, if I'm a fueler, we tend to get focused on maintaining the fuel truck, testing the fuel, okay, ordering parts for the fuel truck, and training soldiers how to operate the fuel truck. Okay, we don't get into the portion where, as a supervisor, you're actually counseling your soldiers, you're helping them prepare for career advancement, and those type of things, right? So when you get out into the civilian world and they want you to be a person that has supervisory experience, because the same things you did in the military as far as counseling and getting people and writing evaluations, excuse me, you're going to be doing those same things as a supervisor on the outside. Okay. And transferring language from military to civilian, right? Even working for the Department of Defense as a civilian employee, you need to be able to translate what you've done from especially a branch specific military jargon into a more professional, easily communicated terminology that the people that are reviewing your resume in the HR area can understand and apply to the position that you're applying for. You know, when we go on usajobs.gov, a lot of people seem to think that there's this big, huge computer system that's scanning your resumes for keywords. And I'm here to tell you that is not the case. The Civilian Personnel Action Centers, or AKA CPACs, are full of highly skilled, trained, and dedicated men and women that actually read over your resumes if they make the cut. Okay. Interview skills. All right. Your interview skills, you have to prepare for your interviews. Prime example, if you've applied for a job and then those people have contacted you to schedule a date, right? Hopefully you remember that you applied for that position, okay? What you should immediately begin doing is reviewing everything that you can find about that company and about that position. Go back into your resume and make sure you made notes in case they ask you about situations and things that took place at previous locations, okay? Find out what you can about the company, all right? What's the history of the company? Where's the company located? What do they do, okay? You need to go into detail because they might, ask you some of those things. What do we do here? Where are we located? Who founded the company? I've had that happen to me once. And, fortunately for me, I answered some of the questions, but I honestly told them I didn't know. All right, you have to be straight up. Don't try to finagle your way around anything. And I was also told this, and it was laughable, but it was true. Especially today during the COVID deal, there are a lot of telephonic interviews or Skype interviews, right? Make sure you do your research before the interview takes place. When you're on an interview using a digital platform, they can hear you when you're typing up Google. And they've often will, some might frown on it, but it is one of those things where people, might take a different position to that. Okay. So interview questions, it's hard to, expect what's going to happen because we tend to want to think it's going to be based upon the job that we're applying for, right? Sometimes you'll get those off the wall psychological profile interview questions that is hard to prepare for, but always do your best when answering those questions. Be straight to the point. Don't beat around the bush. And if you don't know anything, be honest and tell them you don't know. Okay. But you have the capacity to learn anything because we all do. Okay. Once you're in that position, right? Because we're all looking for that next step up, right? Continue documenting your work. Okay. If you're still in the military right now and you have 5, 6 years down the line, continue documenting what you do, how well you've done it, and what were the results of your actions upon the objective. That needs to be put into your resume. Okay. Any and all training that you've gone through, graduated, accomplished, achieved, you need to maintain those records. Okay. Transcripts, college degrees. So, no matter everything, you have to keep those because some companies require those documents when you apply for the position. I've seen that several times too. All right. Us as military people, especially when you see positions on the federal website that are open to recent graduates and current students. All right. I'm learning a lot, as a federal employee that veterans have the capacity when they achieve a degree to apply as a recent graduate up to 5 years after they graduated because you're a veteran. And if you're currently enrolled in a program, of course, you can enroll as a current student. Now, we need to understand that when they require college transcripts and stuff, they're looking for a certain GPA. All right. So be mindful when you apply as a current student or recent graduate. Right. 2.5 or better, is what they tend to prefer. But hey, it's an elimination factor. Somebody might have a 3.5, somebody might have a 4.0. So that might beat you out. But the veteran factor is always a plus. Okay. Your personal accomplishments, excuse me. When you've attained or achieved something that you feel could give you kudos, maintain those records also. All right. Because you've actually done something well. You was recognized for it. And that also, depending on the position that you're applying for, okay, that is something that could get you an upper hand in a hiring manager deciding to give you an opportunity or not. Okay. I mean, prime example, if you've managed a budget of a X amount of dollars, you need to put that in there. Okay. Managing budgets and accounting for property and saving the military money, all of that is a plus because when you go out here into the civilian world, okay, these companies don't want people that's going to waste their money. They don't. They want people that's going to help them make more and benefit them. You have to bring something to the table, and it has to be an actual literal thing. All right. And let me backtrack here for a moment. So we talk about resumes, right? We all know that on the federal website, USA Jobs, when you're applying for a job, okay, you have to take a questionnaire, right? So those questionnaires are scored. Everything is a point system. Inside the group, no service member left behind. I often post a lot of items, a lot of detail in reference to federal jobs, because they're there for us, and they're everywhere. When you're answering those questions, right, you get scored on them. And everybody thinks, oh, I'm going to just answer expert, expert, expert. You can do that, but it's got to be reflected in your resume, okay? And sometimes those questions might just pop up during the interview. Right. So, and it has to be something that you've done within a year or so, right? But at the same time, it has to reflect in your resume. So if I'm going to answer an expert at maintaining 52 nuclear silos, right? That'd be a lie for me because I've never done that. So if the job requires you to maintain something nuclear, of course, they're going to ask you about that during the interview process. And I'm not going to be able to answer those questions. And that's going to result in an automatic elimination in the hiring process for me. So we got to be careful about what we do and how we do it, okay? There's a lot of people out here who want to say that it's a rigged system. They only hire their friends and their buddies. I'm talking about federal jobs, but that's not true. All right, 9 times out of 10, because I've spoken to people that work at a CPAC, it's our resumes and how we answer these questions. All right. So when you see something specified in the duty description, you must write your resume to fit that duty description. I hope everybody's understanding what I'm saying. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Who am I speaking to?
Elaine. I'm Elaine.
Hello, Elaine.
You're going to ask questions at the end.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Sorry.
Okay.
I apologize for that, Ms. Prather.
Oh, that's okay.
So I will yield the floor to the host and we will move on to the next topic.
Thank you, Mr. Tall, for your insight. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you for the invite.
Okay, so next we're going to have federal and contractor jobs, and that's going to be presented by Mr. Albert May, and he's also Army retired. So Al, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. I'm going to mute myself.
Oh, my name is Al Maynard. I'm a retired first sergeant. I've been out for 19 years now. I just happen to be a senior executive officer in the federal government, and I work in HR. So everything that Vernell talked about in the hiring process is extremely important. The major things that I tell folks when they apply for a government job is this: tell a story. Make sure your story is accurate. Don't be afraid to brag about yourself because nobody is better than you, okay? Understand it's like Vernell said earlier, when you put something in your resume, please be able to talk to it. Don't just put it in because, hey, this announcement say A, B, and C, okay? When we talk about the USA jobs, again, I work in HR. I've been in HR ever since I retired from the military. I'm a hiring authority. I'm one of those people that when you apply for a job, I scan your resumes to tell you whether or not I'm going to interview you. We'll have jobs that we put out, and they may be 130 applicants that apply for a job. I'm going to knock it down to maybe 7 to 8. And at the most, only 3 of those 8 might get an interview. Be able to sell yourself. Again, like Vernell said earlier, if you deal with money, please put it in. Value that. Estimate it at. Those are the things that we look for as hiring authorities when we say, hey, this person right here will bring something to the table, okay? The hiring process in the government is not a computer that looks at your resume when you put it in. When she put that through, you go through layers of folks that's going to be looking at your applications. You're going to go through the basics, then there's going to have another QA down the line to tell you whether or not your cert has been sent to the hiring authority. Biggest thing is to get your cert, your resume to the hiring authority. From there, you'll get a response in the email saying, hey, you made the cert. That does not guarantee you're going to have an interview. but at the same time, at least you know, hey, my resume got by and got to that person's desk. And that's extremely important in the federal government. The process takes a little bit longer than the civilian side. It's say between 100 and 120 and 180 days. We found a way that we can get announcements out and start the process within 30 days. I work at Health and Human Services, and even to the point where when we hire someone within 3 days, our HR office has to give you an offer letter, okay? That offer letter will say, hey, here's the starting process to get you through, to start going through your background investigations, fingerprints down the line, okay? Please, don't be afraid to apply. Don't be afraid to sell yourself. Here's what I did. I came into the government in 2002 as a GS-11. Me and a friend of mine, I retired as an E8, he retired as an E7. We played this game and the system goes, hey, let's see who can go from 11 to 14 in 5 years. I was a GS-11 8 months. I was a 12 months. I was a 13, 15 months. I went from 11 to 14 in 3 years. And from there, what we've done is this. We've helped other people, especially military folks, get to where we're at. I'm not afraid to teach you exactly how to be better than me. I want you to grow because I can retire again for the second time in 5 months. So I've already did 19 years. I have 5 months that I can retire again, 21 in the Army, another 20 in the federal government. Please, if you go to school, finish your degree. You got it. We call it, make it harder for them to tell you no. People ask me, what's that? A whole lot of people got degrees, but you guys in the military, you have degrees and experience, especially when you go to leadership school. 90% of these hiring authorities out here in the federal government, they don't have any leadership training. Their leadership school, I went to the leadership school in the federal government for SES, and it's the same training that I learned when I was an E6. Now imagine that now. As an E6, the level that I got in the SES school is the same. They don't train us like they train the military. You guys are leaders. When you come into this, lead. It's a challenge, a real challenge. When we talk about how to get a federal job, again, go through the process. USA Jobs have their announcements that you want to apply for. Apply for jobs that you know that you can at least get a chance to make the cert. Don't just apply for a job, oh, this looks good. Make sure that you think you can be qualified. Here's what we do. You guys have my email address. I've written and helped about a couple thousand people since I retired. It costs you nothing. Send me an email. We'll find a way to come back and say, hey, here's how your resume should look. A couple of the guys in my neighborhood, when I lived in Maryland, I moved to North Carolina now. We formed a mentorship group in which we helped the local kids in the area. From then on, we've made sure that we've helped other federal employees, other military personnel, and how to beat the system. You just want to make the cert. Like Vernell said, when you go to that interview, you control the interview. We don't control the interview as hiring authorities. You guys do, okay? When we ask a question, look that person in the eye and answer. If you don't know the answer, just say, but you'll come back and find a way to get that answer to them, okay? Follow-up letters. After your interview, write a follow-up letter, thank that person for the interview, find out who all were in the panel, send them a note. That note goes a long way. When I interview someone, they send me back a note, I remember that person's like, hey, this person's really, really interested in this job, okay? Now we talk again about how to get a federal job. One thing that people don't understand is there's a thing called a Schedule A. Schedule A deals with disabilities that you can apply for a government job. And if you have asthma, hypertension, you get a note from your doctor, make sure it's on the letterhead. Here's what happens with that. If there's a job that you qualify for, we can hire you in 2 weeks. Literally 2 weeks. I use Schedule A to get around the system as far as I don't have to wait 120 days. I don't have to wait 180 days. If you go into that database and you have a Schedule A, we have databases for that. We pull those resumes that are Schedule A. That person qualifies. The only difference between Schedule A and a regular high-end authority, your probationary period is 2 years.
So they really are done both for availability and.
Someone's on a hot mic. Your probationary period is 2 years. Doing your job for those 2 years, once your probationary period is up, hey, look for something else. Do not, I'm telling you this straight up, do not be loyal to any organization if you want to move up. Once you've been there 12 months, start looking for the next step. There's nothing wrong with jumping from job to job. People say, hey, it's not good to have multiple organizations on your resume. I can tell you right now, I've been in the federal government for 19 years. This is my 9th agency. I'm not loyal to a soul. I move around. I found ways to better myself. The best career field in the federal government is called 0343, management analyst. Management analyst, you can be logistics. You can be a core. Talking about cores, get your core certification, even while you're in the military. Once you have those, they always need cores. At this moment, even though I'm an SES, I am still a level 3 core. I've been dealing with the children coming across the border. I've been in Texas since March, back and forth, running multi-billion-dollar contracts for the federal government, taking care of the kids coming across. And that's happening daily. The Haitians coming across, those are the things that we do. Don't be afraid of a challenge, okay? On the contracting side, you make a whole lot more money, okay? But understand this, contract jobs, they say, I got a 5-year contract. No, you got a 1-year guaranteed contract with 4 options. If your employee does not do what they need to do as far as that contract, those other 4 years are options. As we say, options are not exercised. That's the discretion of the federal government. I have an HR background, logistics background, financial background, transportation background. Utilize your skill set. I was an Army aviator before I retired. So I went from Army aviation. I learned the aspects of being a program analyst. I understand the budget. Make sure you understand money. Play with money. When I first got in the federal government, I sent my resume to a high-end authority that was a retired Air Force officer. And he asked me one simple question. He said, how much money do you manage in the HR office? I said, a couple $1 million. He said, how come I don't see any of it on your resume? Ensure that you put that financial on your resume, okay? When we talk about on the contract side again, the contract side is there. We utilize contractors way more than we do civilian employees. Here's why. The government FTEs is not as plentiful as the contract side. So I have more contractors working for me than I do have feds, because we can hire them based on that our contracting dollars are way more than our federal dollars. So we utilize that as much as possible. Okay. If you don't want to be on the federal side, go on the contract side. Make sure you get a contract that you know that's going to be there for a long time. Okay. Understanding the transition from the military to civilian, that employment is totally different. Okay. But get ready for it. It's a new challenge out there. It is so much fun, but we're here to help. We are here to help. Someone helped me almost 20 years ago, and I've been paying it forward since, okay? You guys have my information. Everything that Vernell said previous to what I said, okay? He basically told you guys a whole lot of things that I was going to talk to you about, but is extremely important that what he says is actually what we do as the hiring authorities, okay? Employment expectations, be patient, okay? Don't think you're gonna get out and hey, they're gonna just hire you right away, okay? But start the process now before you get out. Don't wait until you have a month out. I started a year out, so I was prepared for this, but I just happened to have people around me that helped. Now you guys have the opportunity to have folks around you to help. When you go to those processing centers and those guys are teaching you about resumes and all that, like Ronell said, they don't have a clue what they're talking about. I had to learn this on my own once I got out, but I was blessed to have 2 family members that were in government HR, so they showed me the ropes, okay? Again, your resume tells you a story. Don't be afraid to brag about yourself. You know you better than anyone else. I still have my resume from 2002. And look at the transformation from 2002 to now is night and day. When I apply for a job, they can't say I'm not qualified. And you guys do the same thing. All your training, all your education. If you haven't finished a degree while you're in, make sure you do it. When you get out, get your degree. Make it hard for them to tell you no. Make it hard for people like me in the executive branch to say no, okay? Again, we'll have, be available for questions at the end. I'm here to help. We're here to try to do our best to make sure our military service members have all the resources necessary to be successful. But thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Al. I appreciate it. Al is definitely the go-to person from my experience. He helped one of my old coworkers get a job in no time. I was amazed. So he's definitely a good resource to have. All the presenters' contact information will be presented at the end. So I encourage you guys to maybe take a snapshot with your phone of the computer of everybody's information, just to ensure that you have it after this is over. Okay. So next we're going to have Miss Elaine Mason, and she's going to talk about getting the disability rating that you deserve. Elaine.
Hello all. My name is Elaine Mason. I'm a Navy veteran. I served 5.5 years in the Navy. I got out in 2017. No, 2015, sorry. 2017, I'm sorry. I did 5.5 years in the Navy, and I got out because I got hurt on the ship. So when I got out, I got medically discharged, but I didn't get the rating that I truly deserved at that point. So when I got out, I was at 50%. And then I realized that this is not gonna work. I'm gonna go in and put in for my disability myself. And I researched how to complete a claim and get the adequate percentage I deserve. So what I'm going to talk to you about is getting started. If you're still in the service, you need to make sure you go to medical for every single thing. I don't care if it's a headache, if you have stress, anxiety, if you got so much as a cut, if you had acne while in the military, if you wear glasses now when you didn't wear glasses then, get all of that documented. Don't let your command scare you into not going to medical. You go to medical for every single issue you have. So if you're still in, all you have to do is get everything documented first off. And then for the people who are already out, what you have to do is get like buddy statements, letters, things of that sort. People who witnessed you having any issues in any way. If you're getting seen for things that you've already, or if you've never got seen for them and you're already out, that doesn't matter. When I got out, I didn't have PTSD. They didn't diagnose me with PTSD until after I got out, and I got 70% just for that one thing. And that's after I got out. So don't be afraid to go for that. So also for secondary claims. So for secondary claims are things that resulted after, say you have like foot pain and your foot pain caused you when you got out, now you have back pain. You can go in and put in a secondary claim for that, and that will increase your rating as well. Keep your medical records on you. Always make a copy of a medical record. I don't care if it's civilian or out in town. Always have a copy of your medical records. That's important when you're trying to get 100% or a high percentage. And with these percentages, you can make sure. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that part whenever you get a chance, please? This is Trina.
Okay. Yes. So you're talking about the secondary part.
Yes, ma'am. Oh,
Okay. So for secondary claims, if something happened, if you already did your claim and you had other issues arise, say you have foot pain, and then you realize, oh, it's a year later, I got back pain. That's considered a secondary claim, and you can go put in for that. You can go put in for that back pain, and your percentage will increase. And like I said, keep your medical records. I don't care if it's out in town or your military medical records. Those are important. Buddy letters. Buddy letters are basically what it sounds like. You have friends who witness, or friends or coworkers who witness anything. I don't care if you saw someone fall off the flight deck, you saw someone commit suicide, get hurt. You can claim PTSD or stress and anxiety from that, because one day you might think about that, and that's considered PTSD. So you need to talk to your therapist about all of that. Another thing I didn't write on the slide about the disability is CMP exams. CMP exams are compensation and pension exams, basically to get your money. So you're gonna go, when you put in for a claim, they're gonna pay for you to go to medical appointments that are out in town, whether you're in or whether you're out. You'll get paid to go to these appointments. And these appointments is how you get your money, talking to these providers and these doctors about any issues you may have. Anything that can arise later in life, you need to add that to your claim. So if you've been around a lot of noise, but you feel like you can hear well, you still need to claim hearing loss or tinnitus, because that can happen later, and that will be considered a secondary claim. So you want to add whatever you can, because the VA rating system is ridiculous. You can have 160% and only get 70%. So the more things you have on there, the better chance you have of getting a higher percentage. Lay statements. Lay statements are basically from your civilian doctors or just regular doctors. If you go to a regular doctor and you say you go to the to the emergency room, you want to ask doctors for statements about things that you talked about while you were there. And those in itself will make you not even have to have an appointment for certain things if you already have letters from doctors saying that you have stress, or you have anxiety, or you have migraines and they happen 4 or 5 times a week. You want to make sure that you have a letter stating that, or a statement stating that. You want to keep a journal about your sleep habits. If you can't sleep, or if you feel like you sleep, but you might not sleep at the right time and your sleep schedule is off, you need to claim sleep apnea, insomnia, anything that's prevalent to that. Even though those all sound like the same things, they're not. And you can get paid for all of those things. What I do now is I help people with their claims. And if you contact me at the end, I'll give you more information. I know we don't have a lot of time. So if you have any questions, I can answer any question you have. And yeah, so I helped over 350 people get 100%. So we can talk about that. Just any questions you have, just contact me later at the end. And thank you, January.
Thank you, Elaine. Again, everybody's contact information will be on a slide for you all at the end. Please hold any questions or comments. If you have a comment, if you need someone to repeat themselves or whatever, if you could just please type that in the chat, and then I can communicate with that person to repeat themselves, just so not to interrupt them. Thank you again, Elaine. So next we're going to have Home Buying 101 with real estate professional Wendy Goodman, and she does work with veterans as well as active military. Wendy.
Good evening, everybody. I am so honored to be able to speak among such amazing servants. And I think I'm the first person that is not a veteran. So thank you guys for your service. I, like January has said, have worked with several clients in the past that have used a VA loan. And so I am a real estate agent. The difference between a real estate agent and a lender is that I am the person who helps find the home. I'm in the beginning of the process, which gets you qualified, and I help you find the home. I work hand in hand with the lender. The lender is actually the person who manages your loan and gets your loan to approval. But because I worked hand in hand with them, I have learned a lot about the VA loan process. So this information is general, and again, I'm a realtor, not a lender, but let's talk about some of the benefits in using a VA loan versus some of my clients who are not able to do that. So the biggest difference for a person who has a VA loan is the fact that they do not have to worry about a down payment to a certain extent. The VA loan, a down payment is 3.5% of the purchase price. So if the cost of the house is $200,000, your down payment would typically be $7,000. So that's $7,000 that because you are using a VA loan, you do not have to worry about. The other thing is that you are able to use your VA loan more than one time. You have a certain amount that you're able to use up to, and then that amount, if you don't use it all at first, you could use it again when you go to apply for a loan after you've moved to a different state or city, or even in the same area. So those are the two main benefits of using a VA loan. The criteria to use your VA loan is similar to anybody else who was in the process of buying a home. The lender is going to ensure that you are able to use a VA loan, and they call that a certificate of eligibility. The certificate of eligibility is required in the beginning for your pre-approval. You have access, so you will get this information over to your lender of choice. You can use any lender. It can be a bank, the bank that you use now. It could be a local lender. Most all lenders are able to process a VA loan once you get them your certificate of eligibility. And that also tells them how much money you have left if you have used it before. Your credit score does have to be 620 or higher. Obviously, the higher the credit score, January is going to talk to us about that later. The higher the credit score, the better, the lower the interest rate. The other requirement is the debt to income. Now, here's the part that I said, no down payment for most people. If your debt to income is over 41%, then you may be required to pay your down payment. If your down payment is, your debt to income is over 41%, your lender will tell you exactly what to do or what to pay off to get you under the 41% so that you can access your no down payment benefit. The other important thing to know, VA or any loan, is that student loans used to be accounted for 1% of your debt to income. It has now been dropped to 0.5. So that's half of what would have been considered before. So that's a great thing, because now if you were over 41% just because of student loans, it could put you back into being under 41% because of that recent change. So if you've applied before within the last, or previously before the last 30 days, you may be able to qualify if debt to income was something that held you back. The process is the exact same with regards to the first step is getting with a lender to get pre-approved. And that lender is going to tell you, again, your debt to income, your credit score, and help you to see how much money you can qualify for to purchase your home. After you get your pre-approval, you contact me, and then we get to go shopping. we stay under the budget that they've given you. And this process is the same for everybody. We put in an offer, our offer will get accepted, and then we go to a home inspection where they get to see the house and see, I tell people it's like an owner's manual for the home you're about to buy. So it's going to be long, no home inspection has nothing on it. It's going to be everything that you would need to know, whether it's something that needs to be completed now or something that should be completed down the line so you can prepare for it. After that period is completed, we call that the contingency period, because if you have a home inspection and you don't like what the home inspection looks like, you are able to get out of it. You are not locked in to stay under contract. Only thing you lose is the cost of money it took for you to pay the home inspector. The other thing is, after that happens, that's when you and the lender work together to get your loan closed. You'll be requesting, they'll continue to check your eligibility for your VA loan throughout the entire process so that you don't lose eligibility the day before closing. So you want to make sure that that goes well. You will do your bank statements, your pay stubs, proof of income. You can't purchase any large things to make your debt to income off. And then while that's happening, the appraisal happens. During the appraisal period, this period is different for VA versus somebody, a civilian. So this is always, VA appraisals look for different things than FHA or a regular conventional loan. They have different guidelines. They are a little bit more strict, but every appraiser is different. So you'll get some VA appraisers who are just as lenient as long as they check off all of the VA boxes. And then you get some that are more strict. So that part just depends on who the appraiser is, but the checklist for the appraisal is different from the one for FHA and conventional or non-VA loans. After the appraisal, again, we do walkthrough just to make sure the house is in the same condition. And then after that, we go to closing. And then you get to go home to your new house. And hopefully you have more money left in your eligibility to purchase again within the next 3 months. I mean, oh goodness, wouldn't that be amazing? 3 months, no, you can purchase, there's not a limit or a time frame as long as it's after 6 months. The other thing too to remember is, I know if you get orders and you gotta go somewhere else, that's perfectly fine. When you're using your VA loan, you have to move in within 6 weeks to 6 months. So if you purchase now, you're not moving in for 3 months, that's fine. As long as it doesn't go past 6 months, because then that turns into you're using this as an investment property. Now, if you purchase the home using your VA loan and then you move and you need to rent it out, that's perfectly fine too. A lot of people do that. I have a lot of clients who have had to rent their house out because they got orders to go somewhere else. And sometimes it doesn't happen a long time from the time they purchase. It could happen in 6 months. So that's perfectly fine. And you are still able to use your VA loan when you get ready to buy again. That's it. I'll be around for questions.
Thank you, Wendy.
You're welcome.
All right, so I'm your host for this evening, January Prather. I'm a Navy veteran, and I'll be discussing with you guys how to understand and improve your credit. I might go a little fast. I'm gonna try not to go too fast, but for time's sake, I'm not gonna spend too much time in the different areas. So a little bit of information about me. I did serve 12 years in the Navy. After I got out of the Navy, I ended up having to file bankruptcy. I lost my home and my car, and that started me on my journey on being able to learn and teach myself how to improve my credit. And I was able to improve my credit in 6 months. And after that, I just started sharing information with people because my heart is always to help people. So that's the reason for this portion of the presentation. So the great thing about credit is that you really can improve it. You just have to know how, and you have to understand it. So something basic that a lot of people may or may not know is that there are 5 factors that make up your credit score. The first factor is payment history, and that's worth 35% of your score. So payment history is obviously you just making payments on time. Amounts owed makes up 30% of your credit score. And that's just the amounts that are owed, mostly credit cards. So if you have credit cards and they're maxed out or at over 30% utilization, then you're considered a risk to lenders because you are almost maxing out your credit in their eyes. Length of credit history is 15% of your credit score, and that's just how long you've had accounts that are in good standing. The accounts that are negative standing, that doesn't help you. If you have accounts in good standing, that helps your credit score. Also, a credit mix. A lot of people don't have a good credit mix and they wonder why they can't get their scores up. A good credit mix is, the lenders, they want to see, or even the credit bureaus, they want to see that you have at least 2 loans. So that could be a mortgage, it could be a car loan, it could be a personal loan. And then they like to see you have at least 2 to 3 credit cards that you're managing properly. And that makes up 10% of your score, the credit mix does. And new credit also makes up 10% of your credit score. You are considered higher risk when you're opening new lines of credit. So make sure you guys take note of that. So what can be removed from your credit report? Honestly, anything can be removed from your credit report, whether it's yours or not, whether it's paid or not. By law, you have the right to dispute anything on your credit report. You have to you pretty much have to make it so that they have to verify that it is yours. It's almost like you're just kind of oblivious. Can you verify this? That's how you dispute. That's how the dispute process should work. Remember that 80% of all credit reports contain errors. So that works in your favor. I bet if anybody looked at that credit report right now, you would see things. You might see Experian reporting about one balance or one opening date, and then TransUnion reporting another. That's an error. It's supposed to be across the board, all correct information. If it's not, that definitely lets you know that you have grounds to dispute. I caution you that if you have credit reports that are in good standing, do not dispute those, please. Just focus on accounts that are hurting your credit score. Now, 5 mistakes that people make when they're disputing is, number 1, people dispute online. You never want to dispute online. And the reason why is because you are giving up your rights. So you are agreeing to whatever TransUnion, Experian, whatever they have. And a lot of times they'll have, and nobody reads those clauses, but a lot of times they'll have it in there where you can't dispute the same thing twice online. So you don't want to give up your rights as a consumer by disputing online. Also, they don't have to necessarily provide you with documentation online. So that's another big reason why you do not want to dispute online. Another mistake that people make is that you're not clear in your dispute. And what I mean by being clear is that you need to have the reason that you're disputing and what you want them to do about it. So people think that when they write letters, you have to cite all these laws and things like that. You don't. If you are clear with your dispute, you can get results. Another mistake that people make is getting easily discouraged, because credit bureaus are notorious for not responding at all, or for coming back saying verified and providing you with no documentation. And some people get discouraged because it comes back verified 3 times, not realizing they may be not clear in their dispute, or maybe something else that they can do better. Another mistake is not being consistent. As soon as you get results for a bureau, you should be sending out another letter. As soon as they're done with their investigation, send another letter out. You have to be consistent. That's the only way that your credit will improve. And then the last mistake is disputing before you apply for a loan. This is a big one. If you're looking to purchase a home, especially, and the lender looks on your credit report and they see that an item is in dispute in the comments, that can hold up your loan process. So keep that in mind if you're looking to purchase a home. If you want to work on your credit, try to average the time. I'd always tell people, give yourself a good year before you purchase a home, or before you plan to purchase a home, to dispute your credit. Instead of trying to say, oh, I want to buy a home in 2 months and you're starting to dispute your credit, it may not work out in your favor. All right, another thing to really, really understand, which a lot of people don't know, and that was my intention for this, is just wanting to give you information that a lot of people may not know, is how the credit bureaus operate. The credit bureaus operate in a way where they don't want you to have good credit. They make money off of you having bad credit. By law, no creditor, no collection agency, by law, they don't have to report anything on your credit report. It's a choice. They're choosing to do that because it's something in it for them as well as the credit bureau. So remember that. So if you call a creditor or if you're trying to get something off and they say, oh, we can't negotiate you, or we can't do this, we can't do that, just understand that that's what they're choosing to do. There's no law holding them to keeping something on your credit report. So how do credit bureaus operate? Two things I'm going to talk about that a lot of people may not know is OCR, which is optical character recognition. The credit bureaus use machines. A human person does not read your letter unless your letter is unrecognizable. Some people write in crayon or misspell words on purpose to where the machine can't understand it, but mostly it's ran through a machine. So the first machine is the optical character recognition. It reads every single letter and it's scanning the letter to make sure that your disputes are legitimate and not frivolous. Frivolous means if they see that you are, maybe in some cases they say having a bunch of accounts, which is not always true. But if they get the feeling, okay, this person's trying to fix their credit, they can stall you. And how they can stall you, again, they could just not respond. They can send you a letter saying you didn't give them enough information, things like that, because they can sense that, hey, this person's trying to improve their credit versus just asking a question about accounts. That's why I say that your dispute has to be clear. So a lot of times I play, for my clients, I play dumb. And when I write letters for them, you don't have to, again, you don't have to cite all these laws and things like that, because that can be considered frivolous as well. The second line of defense for the credit bureaus against your disputes is eOscar, which is also another machine that is reading your disputes. But this machine is pretty much assigning your disputes a 3-digit code. And that code just reflects the reason why you're disputing. So even if a human does happen to read your letter, let's say, the machine doesn't really understand a letter and the human has to read it, that human still only cares about the 3-digit code. So a 3-digit code is going to be assigned to it. And the reason why that's all they care about is because that's what they send to the creditor or collection agency. They send them that 3-digit code. So the collection agency creditor never sees your letter. All they know is they're getting sent your name and this 3-digit code as the reason why you're disputing. And the creditor then can literally click a button and tell the credit bureau that it's verified without sending the credit bureau any documentation at all. So no investigation really took place. And this is what happens majority of times with the credit bureaus. And they do this and people get discouraged. So I encourage you that if you are looking to fix your credit, do not get discouraged. Be empowered by the knowledge that I'm giving you, as well as any knowledge you know on your own, so that you can continue to fight for your good credit. Now, I'm going to talk about disputing the right way. I kind of already covered that. Disputing the right way, again, you don't have to cite a whole bunch of laws in your letters. You can simply make it about asking a question. The whole thing is that you want to put the burden on the credit bureau to verify your account the proper way. There are certain documentations and certain things that they should be providing you with. But again, if your dispute is not clear, they're just going to come back and say verify, because they're like, oh, this person doesn't know what they're talking about. So you want to always have a reason why you're disputing something. Or I'll give you an example of a reason. If there's an account that has a late payment and you don't recall being late, then your reason would be, I was never late on this account. And the reason, I'm not the reason, but that's the reason. And then the result, which means the result that you want, please remove this late payment. You could say, please investigate and remove this late payment from my credit report. It could be that simple. In some cases, you can get a little more detailed and say, please provide me, after investigation, please provide me with certain documentation, and you tell them what documentation, and they have to provide you with that. And if they don't, you can send another letter. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the proper way to pay credit cards. I'm going to keep this short. For credit cards, please pay on your statement date, not on your due date. Your statement date is when they report to the credit bureaus. Your due date is when you're due the payment. If you pay it on the statement date, it's going to be that lower balance by the time they report to the credit bureaus. The statement date is almost always before the due date. So essentially, you can feel like you just made a payment and you turn right back around to make another payment because you're trying to pay by that statement date. Pay at least a week before the statement date to give it time to go through. Also, another proper way to use credit cards is just to make sure you don't go above 30% utilization starting out, but then you also want to get to at least 5%, just constantly being at 5% utilization. That will give you excellent credit. You want to get that on all your cards. So if you have a lot of credit card debt, I would say start with your lowest card to your highest and start working on paying those down. I don't really recommend, like if you have a $5,000 card, sorry, that's my alarm. If you have a $5,000 card and a $500 card, you can pay that $500 card off way sooner than that $5,000 card. Because if you look at it and you say, I'm going to make $100 payments to each card, you're still going to be so far off with that $5,000 card when you could have just taken all of that and paid the $500 card off. And if you don't like using credit cards, which a lot of people don't, then just use it for Netflix, gas, something small that you can just put right back onto the card so that it shows that you're managing your debt. Because that's all it is with credit bureaus. They just want to see, and lenders as well, they want to see how you manage other people's money. So how you manage your debt, if you have a credit card that you do not use, that credit card company will either close your card or drastically lower your limit. So the best way is just to make credit cards work for you and also to help you with your credit score. Now, if you have no credit or you don't have a good credit mix, you want to build credit. And there are a couple of resources. I actually have a group that I'm going to share with you all at the end, and I put those resources in that group. But there are a couple of resources that you can use, such as loans, credit cards, things like that, that you can even report utility bills, you can report rent, things like that, that will help you build your credit, and they will look, it will act as a loan. For instance, if you report your rent, that acts as a loan on your credit report. So those resources are in the group that I'm going to share with you guys at the end. And then the last thing is paying off a debt in a way that works for you. So I always tell people, collections and charge-offs, do not pay them. And I'm not saying don't, you're responsible for the debt, but when I say don't pay them, I mean, if you have other debt that you're trying to get down, focus on those first. And the reason why I say that is because a collection and a charge-off will never help your credit score. You can pay it off to zero and it will still hurt you just as much as it was hurting you before. And a lot of people don't know that. People set up payment arrangements with collection agencies, and that's definitely a big mistake, because all you're doing is re-aging the debt. So if that debt was out of the statute of limitations where they can't sue you, and then all of a sudden you start making payments, all you did was re-age that. So now you put yourself back within that window where legal action can be taken against you. I recommend focusing on your active accounts. And then when it comes to collections and charge-offs, they can be removed without you having paid them. But understand that even if it's removed, you're still legally responsible for that debt. Some people get them removed. I'm not going to lie, me personally, I've had collections that I removed off my credit report, never paid them. One has popped back up, the rest of them did not. So, and that one, I'm not going to pay it. I'm just being honest. Unless I have to for my next home or something like that. That's the only way. But even then, when you pay off a debt, please negotiate. When it comes to collection agencies, you did not enter into an agreement with them. So they don't have a contract with your name on it where you entered into an agreement to agree to pay this debt, where they are the debtor. So you can negotiate with them, and you can negotiate a smaller amount than what you owe, but you always want to get it in writing from them that they're agreeing to remove the debt. They're very clever now, because they will email you while you're on the phone with them. They'll email you and say, okay, here's the email. We agree that you can pay out of 1,000, you can pay $500, and then they'll send you the letter. And if you don't read that letter, and I say read it twice, you will get caught up. One of the things that you can get caught up with is the date. They're going to put, like, let's say maybe 2 days later than the date that you're talking to them. That hurts you, because you are not going to give them your bank information, nor are you going to give them your credit card. You don't want to do that, because they can decide they want to take the whole $1,000, even though they agreed that on the $500. You want to send them a cashier's check or money order. So when you see that date, you just simply say, hey, oh, I got your letter. I don't get paid until, and you just put a date out there, and you're just giving yourself time to make sure that that cashier's check and money order gets to them. But you never, ever, ever want to give them your bank information or your credit card information, because it has happened many, many times where collection agencies has taken the full amount. even though that's not what was agreed upon. So always remember that. Negotiate for it to have it removed. If they're not going to remove it, me personally, like I said, the one collection that's back on my account, they don't want to remove it. So I'm just like, okay, well, and I get off the phone. I don't have anything else to say. But even in my conversation with them, I'm not admitting that the debt is mine. Not one time. I'm just saying, hey, I have $500. I would like to settle this debt today. Are you going to take this $500? If they say no, want to give me the runaround, I get off the phone. So just remember, when you're paying off things, you want it to work in your favor. You can also, on your regular bills, you can make extra payments. You can make biweekly payments. When you're making biweekly payments, talk to your lender first, because you can be penalized. Some lenders, and actually my mortgage company is one of them, they penalize you for those biweekly payments. They will apply that to the principal and not the balance. So if you can make biweekly payments, do it. But if you can't, just maybe take half of that payment, instead of paying it to them biweekly, just hold it until the next week and just make the whole payment, and just keep doing that. But then you're going to end up making an extra payment because of how many weeks are in a year. That'll help you during tax time, or if you get a bonus, that's another great time to make an extra payment on any debt that you have that you're trying to pay down. And so that's all that I have. I'm sorry that if I went too fast for you guys, but you will have all of our information on the next slide. I'm sorry we don't have time for questions. If you type your questions in the chat, then we'll see if we can get them answered another way. And this is the contact information for everybody, so you can take a screenshot with your phone. I'm the first person, so I am a credit education and repair specialist. I do have my own credit repair company, as well as I mentor people on helping them learn about credit and fixing their own credit. I have a group on Facebook called Credit Heroes, Credit and Financial Blueprint. You guys are free to join that. It's an open group. And then also I have a website. So I want to give away some free information. If you go to my website and you click on more info and you type in military webinar, I will send you information on 3 ways to defeat debt collectors. And that will include 2 sample letters that you can actually send. And then I also will tell you the ways that debt collectors violate your rights and how you can get paid for. So I'll give those 2 things to anybody who goes to the website, clicks on more info, put in, it's just going to ask you for your name and your email. And then it's going to ask you, how did you hear about us? You're going to type in military webinar. And just for the people who, please make sure you type in military webinar, because I have people who get on my site a lot and I don't want to send that information to somebody who was not on this webinar. Miss Elaine Mason, her phone number is here, as well as her email address. Miss Elaine is currently helping me with my claim, so I think she's definitely a good go-to person. Mr. Tall, he has a Facebook group called No Service Member Left Behind. It is, I think it's an awesome group, because he's constantly, I mean, I don't even know how he finds out about all these jobs, but he's constantly posting job after job after job in this group. So this is definitely a great group to be part of. Plus he's in the group, so you can probably reach out to him and ask him any questions. Miss Wendy Goodman, this is her phone number as well as her email address. So if you guys are looking to buy a home and you're in the Hampton Roads area, Hampton Roads, Virginia, for anybody that's not on here, if you're in the Virginia area and you know what Hampton Roads is, contact Miss Wendy. And then Mr. Albert May, that's his email address on there. Like I said, I can vouch for the fact that he definitely does help people get jobs. And my friend, he helped her get a federal job. So that's his information. If you